What are you people?
It's us.
But of course, we now, already have our Halloween viewing planned, or at least I do. What are you going to watch that day, Richard?
You cornered me here very suddenly. I didn't know we were rolling properly. I don't know, Sarah. What'll you be doing though?
Well, I'll be watching the horror movie Brexit.
Oh, how spooky!
Yes.
Unless it, of course, moves again for the fourth time.
Yes, yeah.
Not to get too topical on this Film Ireland podcast. Welcome and hello. But yes, Brexit. I look forward to I was going to say the many films that will come out of this. There's already one out, which is quite good, I think, actually. It wasn't bad.
That's
a mutual friend of ours was like, you should all watch it. And I'm like, and actually it was decent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I want to start talking about the bad parts of it now, but yeah, let's leave that for now.
You know what? It's, anarchy in the UK, whatever. Talk about it. Go. What you hate about it? Tell me.
I think it was too sympathetic towards our main character.
Cumberbatch's
character, yes.
Whatever the real man was called, isn't
yes.
They're all Cumberbatch now.
Yeah, I think it was scenes.
Fair.
I think it was scenes like the two sides going for a pint. It was just kind of like, I don't care if they get on in real life. Like, I don't give a flying whatever. Like, you've ruined Europe.
A country. Well, yes. Also a continent.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
I wouldn't disagree with that. I remember thinking during that scene that initially I was very against that scene. I was like, oh, why are you doing this? But then the other character who, in my head, was played by Rory Kinnear. Was it Rory Kinnear?
I think so.
Okay,
yes.
It wasn't someone else that looked similar to him. But he's very antagonistic towards Cumberbatch, and like telling him like people will die and stuff. And I think this was maybe before the Joe Cox thing happened in the narrative, or after it. But anyway, like, oh, okay, good. They're actually like addressing that the both sides thing is kind of a fallacy here. But then I do agree that on the whole, it was a bit too easy on him because he was a troubled genius, whatever guy. And even at the end, like his victory was so hollow because what did he really win? Well, he ruined the country. But whatever. Make him feel sympathetic. On to more current releases. Yes. Captain Marvel.
Yes.
After 11 years and 20-something
21
films, at long last, a female-led superhero film from Marvel. After they got to the ones with the raccoons in the trees as the protagonists, at long last, a female from this one. I will preface saying I did thoroughly enjoy it, and I think its desired audience, i.e., younger, more impressionable teenagers and stuff, definitely it's good for them. We'll get them into the feminism in a minute and how maybe simplistic it is, but because I've seen it twice, and both times, second time especially, there was like a small little gaggle of like teenage girls in front of me, and they were so into it. It was kind of adorable, like the properly quote unquote empowering moments. They were like making it. They were like just like squirming and giggling and little yelps of joy. Like good. It's reaching the correct audience. Us as cynical, jaded 20-somethings are like, oh, it's very simplistic. This isn't how the gender divide works at all. I did thoroughly enjoy it, but yes, it is perhaps a film that would have benefited coming out 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yes.
Like post Wonder Woman, it feels very like, oh, this again. Okay, well, I mean, I liked that the last time. That's fine, but also,
yeah.
I don't really want to get into this at all, but do you have any thoughts on the Brie Larson press tour controversy?
Oh yeah. I don't know.
She was right.
Yes.
That's all I have to say, she was right.
Yeah. I think yes, she deserves to be Captain Marvel, if that makes sense. Like she
Absolutely.
very much, is I think she more than Captain Marvel actually is probably like the feminist hero that we need.
Right, yeah, I can go with that. It is nice that both the captains, so her and Chris Evans, are both very political and don't care about being very political in public. It's nice. Yes, no, I definitely she was in the right, and I think the fact that everyone's getting so annoyed at her being antagonistic about it, she has to be, because what else are you going to do? Just like quieten down and say nothing and not retort to like all the nonsense being thrown at her? Of course she's going to be antagonistic and defensive. More power to her, I say.
There you go. And I suppose we'll possibly touch on it later, but Jordan Peele went through something quite similar.
His was even worse. Like hers was out of context. His was so out of context.
Yes.
It was nonsense.
Yeah.
I suppose like, anyone doesn't know this. What was exactly what she said? She wanted to widen the journalistic sort of
she did you say
press pools that she was being stuck into.
Yeah, she basically didn't. Was it that she didn't want to just talk to white male
men.
journalists? And apparently that is heresy.
It's white genocide, Sarah.
Yes,
As
like,
everything
of course.
everything that slights white men is white genocide these days. Yeah, because it wasn't even like she was saying, I want to like take people off the list that are white men and replace them. She's like, no, I just want to expand the list so that it's the current set of journalists and then also some that are like, women or not white people.
Yeah.
Which is totally fair, but of course every article and clickbaity headline and endless YouTube videos just how she's the death of Marvel, she's going to ruin it, and then those hilarious boycotts and the Alita thing.
They showed them.
Yeah, it made $1 billion in 2 weeks. I'm sure Marvel is so salty about your boycotts, white straight men. But the film's pretty alright. It's a breezy, fun time.
Yeah, I found it I find most interesting. Okay, I guess again I'm talking about the surrounding discourse, but the fact
it is always the discourse.
Yes,
Sarah. It's always you these days.
But the fact that that Captain Marvel's big showdown ends up, spoilers, I guess. I think everyone's probably seen
spoilers,
it by now.
Yeah. Statistically, yes. $1 billion would say so.
So her showdown against her sort of former
Yonrog.
Yes.
Fun name to say.
Yeah, quite like Jacob Rees-Mogg, I thought.
Oh, Brexit.
Yes. Brexit.
What is she then? Northern Ireland?
I hope so. Yeah,
just
that
this
could be
tiny little factory that's
well.
going to ruin everything.
Yeah, no, it could work.
Sorry, go on.
But yeah, no, well, I remember like when watching it, it looks like the two of them are going to have some sort of, typical
kerfuffle, yes.
Kerfuffle. And essentially, Jude Law, what's his name?
Yonrog.
Just
call him Jude Law.
Jude Law. Okay, Jude Law is squaring up. Come fight
or
me.
Yon as
You
two
have
friends.
to. You have to, fight me on my level. For whatever reason, and she then turns around and says, I don't have to do anything, and just like, what did she do? She just like
super punches him a mile.
Yeah, into a jail, sent into a tiny little pod
pretty
jail.
much, yeah.
Which at the time I was kind of like, oh, I'm glad they didn't do the boring big fight, but I didn't think much more of it. But finding out then that was apparently like the worst thing in the world that could happen, because why didn't she have that big, boring, normal fight? So I mean, I thought it was so interesting that, yeah, it was that the movie is essentially being attacked on one side, at least, for being like not generic and stereotypical enough. So that, yeah, I mean, that was very interesting. I don't know if you thought anything around there.
I fully agree. Like, I was very happy they didn't do the big. Well, they already had the big CGI space fight, which was
I mean, it was
nicely brief. Like, it looked very good, but also I'm glad it was as short as it was. And yeah, I was very happy they just didn't do that. And I fully agree. Like, it's sort of the point of her arc is that she doesn't need to fight him in the big special effects punch up because it is weird. That's a complaint, given that the few negative reviews that the dude bros are banding about as like proof this is the worst film ever made are basically it's a bit too formulaic. Like, it's too it's just too part of the Marvel. It's just another Marvel movie, and like it is, but these are all fine. So it is funny that like they'd be annoyed at that one thing when essentially subverting that one thing is the one thing it did in its favor. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. Yeah.
I will say the de-aging CGI, phenomenal. Incredible.
Yeah.
You didn't think so?
Well, I thought he looked very the de-aging was good, but
when he moved,
his gait is of someone who's older.
They should have got stunt double for like any scenes that weren't sitting down. Yes, I fully agree with that much. But,
and I thought Coulson as well was kind of a
little
uncanny valley.
Yeah, less money was certainly spent on his face. Even though he looked basically the same, he just had more hair. Like, just give Karen Coulson a wig.
Yes.
Clark Gregg a wig, and just like for all the scenes he was in there for, like he didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But, good CGI cat though when it was CGI.
Yeah, very
that
good.
Was a fun joke. Yeah, so I think a sticking point I've definitely seen a few people mention is the needle drop songs, and I will say I actually loved all of them, especially Just a Girl, because even though every fibre of my critical being wants to hate that sequence because it's so on the nose, it's so tonally weird and what came before it, I loved it because I wanted basically that exact scene for years with that exact song. Just a woman with superpowers just punching a lot of people while that song plays, and it just be tonally dissonant with the rest of the movie. And it was great. But I can understand in an objective sense why that was a bad scene and a bad thing to do. But whatever, I had my fun.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, one of the things that did kind of bother me when I was watching it, and I couldn't quite figure out why, but it was sort of, I suppose it centered around the scene where Carol Danvers is sort of, she's having one of her empowering moments where it's going through the times in her life when she struggled, but she got back up, and it's literally just a montage of her standing, like getting up after she's fallen off her bike, and like standing up after she's fallen doing her army training and all this kind of stuff. And at the time I was just like, it sort of seems like a commercial for Gillette or something.
A little bit, yeah, now that you say it.
But it was sort of later on that I think I kind of hit what my annoyance was, and it's that the film is in a sense kind of going like, yeah, women have had it really hard, it's time we fight back. But like, the reason women have had it hard is because Marvel hasn't given women a movie for 11 years and for 21 properties.
Yeah.
So it seems unfair to be kind of acting as though it's the world against Captain Marvel when it's actually Marvel against Captain Marvel.
I suppose that's true, and it does make the retconning even more incongruous that like the Avengers we now know are named after her technically. And of course she's like the most powerful thing. Well, not the most, but like Thor level powerful. One of the most powerful things. Like, yeah, the retconning does seem like a weird apology that's only backfiring so far. I mean, backfiring amongst the same people we've been talking about. They're like, oh, it's going to ruin Endgame that after 20 odd films this character comes out of nowhere and just kills Thanos or whatever. I mean, that won't happen. When has a Marvel film ever had that happen? It'll be fine. Yeah. She'll have some snappy dialogue. They always have snappy dialogue. Someone will have a quip. It's the same as the rest of these films, you pigs. Eat your slaps. Yeah. I'm looking forward to Endgame a lot, but I'm also like, I don't see how... I mean, it'll probably do something interesting purely because they can now. Everyone's contracts are up, but I don't see it being particularly mind-blowing.
Yeah. And I think especially we were talking about it before, but like they're kind of doing odd things with the way they seem to be trying to reintroduce the characters that were dusted in the last in Infinity War. Thank you. But because I mean they're trying to shove in characters that very much weren't dusted. Yeah. So it looks like they're kind of like, I don't know, are they already trying to retcon stuff to give us a neat little package?
That's what I'm wondering, like, has the nice Simpsons quote there intonation correct? I feel like announcing the Disney Plus series feels like a spoiler because obviously there's a Scarlet Witch and Vision one, there's a Bucky and Falcon one, there's a Loki one. Loki especially because he wasn't dusted, he was just killed.
Yeah, so, no, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care that much because again, I like these films. Like, I don't feel emotional investment. Like I didn't cry when the Spidered Man got sad and came to dust. Tom Holland's a very good actor. It's a very emotionally good, well done, good scene. Yeah. But also fine. He has a sequel out in 6 months. Less than that. He's fine. Captain Marvel. Any other thoughts? I think this is a really solid comedy on the whole, and I like the pacing. No, actually, we didn't talk about the twist at all, which I thought was quite well done.
Oh yeah, actually. One thing that...
Oh, here we go, yes.
Well, one
Peyton
thing that...
Sarah Rand, come on.
Thank you, yes. I take to the stage. What did kind of... it sort of irked me a bit about the reveal. Should we say what the reveal was?
Yeah, no, I think we're going full spoilers here. Yes. That the villains aren't the villains.
Yes.
Well, we kind of spoiled it by saying that Jude Law was the villain earlier on. So
were you paying attention?
The Skrulls, who in the comics have always basically been villains, are the villains here until the halfway point when actually they're not the villains. And I read some reviews that I think quite... You could be able to say the exact same thing
maybe.
That I think quite reasonably said that because they can't tip their hat to the villains being not the villains, it sort of means the first half of the film has no... Well, no one has really any development because everyone's going to hide their personalities and their motivations until that thing happens. Yeah,
that's a fair point, actually. Well, I was going to say specifically that if you remember, there's a scene where there's a dead body and one of the Skrull come along and they do like this weird, like... They sort of hover over it in a sort of weird necrophilia type
I don't remember
pose.
This. Where was this?
So who's it? I'm trying to think what character died quite early on and they had an autopsy for. I wish I could remember what character that was.
It was the Coulson Skrull, wasn't it?
Yes.
So when like Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn are in the autopsy room and then Ben Mendelsohn's like secretly doing the whole Ted Touchy thing.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Like, that was weird. That was and that was like intentionally like this is what an evil person does. So I don't know.
Do you think?
Yeah. Oh, entirely. Well, I mean, like, look, like it's. I don't think you can retcon it in a way to be like, oh, well, that's just that's just what they do because they obviously everything else they do is very human.
Well, okay, if I'm thinking the same bit as you, it's when like he secretly kind of touches the guy's head, and then it says some like "see you in the afterlife" or some shit. Whatever it
Yeah.
says. I thought that was nice. I thought it was just like that's just their cultural way of, instead of doing the whole, you know, an Irish funeral, it's like they kind of awkwardly touching the person's hands in the coffin, like it's that, but for aliens.
Okay, well, fair enough. I mean,
what the jury did as, I'm very intrigued to hear
just
that.
like, just as in like, this is the kind of weird, icky thing that bad guys do. Like it was
Okay.
just very much like a sort of quite like eerily touching a dead thing. Like that's, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's like, it definitely didn't. I can't ever imagine them representing a hero in that way. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
I mean, isn't it not different to, like, you know, when they like close someone's eyes in an action film after they died? Like, it
Oh,
sort of
agreed.
seems similar to that.
But I mean, that's a very
Alright.
human thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas what they did there was like not at all like a human thing.
Fair.
That was my reading anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess I possibly what you were talking about earlier, that might be a better way of looking at it either. Just that, yeah, very little character development.
Which I guess is a problem, but also I think that first hour is snappy enough that it. I didn't feel it so much, but I think the reviews aren't wrong in saying it. Just because you said it now, it's back to that autopsy scene. The bit that actually in that scene that kind of that made me kind of go ugh, is when they both check out his junk. And like, what are you doing? But that was Sam Jackson doing that. I was like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, that was bad.
All
right, everyone in that movie is just like,
look, the autopsy scene is just
yeah.
A miasma of bad directing choices.
Fair.
But yeah, and I did like the twist, even though it does make me think they can't really now use the Skrulls ever again as villains, because it just seems like a weird genociding of refugees are used as villains. But for, you know, scare quotes, Trump's America, it was a nice twist to have. Whereas here's the alien invading force. Oh no, they're all refugees and children. Let's not murder them. And yeah. So yeah, you know, all right. You know, A+ on the attempted feminism and political commentary. It wasn't particularly nuanced, but whatever. It's a Marvel movie. It's not going to be nuanced.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's probably enough Marvel talk.
Yeah, fair.
Though I will just say the other film, not called Captain Marvel, although it's called Captain Marvel in the comics, Shazam, also very good. Go watch that too. I'll say no more because on time limit here, people. Sarah, let us enter the Irish corner on this Film Irish podcast.
Yeah.
That is our name now. Grammatically incorrect and all. By all means, start us with everyone you want.
Okay, yeah. Is this going to be quite a bleak section, or all three movies?
Sarah, Irish cinema does not have a reputation for being relentlessly bleak.
Yes.
Yes, probably.
Apologies. Yeah, so I suppose I'll start by talking about the Miami Showband Massacre. Which...
real world bleak. It's the bleakest of all bleaks.
That's so mean. Stop.
Can I just say, before you go into this, every time I see that title, I always think it's like a trashy horror film. It just sounds like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was like, but I know it's a real thing that happened, and it was really bad and horrible, and like quite low key horrible, not in like a big extravagant. Oh my god, I can't talk today. Any kind of big crazy way, but just the title is so, what's the word? Like exploitation-y sounding or something?
Yeah, it does actually, yeah.
Like I can imagine like that 80s or 70s kind of voiceover that's like the Miami Showband Massacre. Like it's sorry, anyway, real people died, Sarah, go on.
That's it, yeah. I'm really happy that this podcast now has recording of me saying massacre followed by me like giggling hysterically. It's not a good look.
2K19, we're all jaded.
Yeah, there we go. But so this is, I think it's part of a larger series on music and history documentaries from the Remastered series. So other ones might be also worth checking out. But yeah, no, this is looking at the Miami Showband, which was like the most popular band in Ireland, I believe. They like traveled north and south throughout the 60s and 70s. And in 1975, they were stopped on the border by the Ulster Volunteer Force, and 3 of them were killed by a bomb that was put into their bus. And I mean, it's pretty horrific already. Obviously, the documentary goes into the interviews with 2 of the surviving members. There was a third one he's not mentioned there, so just hopefully his life is okay. You know, it's hard to know what it would have done to you.
Yeah.
But the documentary sort of, I suppose, as they do, they manage to like twist into even more horrific revelations. So there's basically, it looks at how it turns out that like this wasn't just a random attack. This was carefully coordinated by possibly British agents. And yeah, so it's looking at basically how the surviving members and their families have been, you know, trying to find out the truth for 30 plus years now. So yeah, it's like obviously very hard going. There's sort of a slightly odd moment in it when Bertie Ahern turns up as a talking head.
Oh, like contemporary Bertie, or just like
yes,
an old archive footage?
No, very contemporary. So which is it's sort of one of the very few kind of indicators that this is probably made by people who aren't Irish.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, like, it's sort of a slightly odd moment, but in, you know, like it's a very good documentary. The fact that Bertie Ahern is in it should not take it away from, you know, any
true of all things to do with Irish culture, I feel.
Yeah, that's
his
it.
Involvement should not be a blight on that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really, really interesting. It was something that I sort of only vaguely knew about before, and you know, I'm now devastated about. And it was interesting because there's also another documentary on the show bands from Ardal O'Hanlon was, or at least he was the leading it. I don't know if he was involved otherwise, but he was doing the interview and going around the country. It's called Show Bands: How Ireland Learned to Party. And generally,
that's such an old man title for
yes. And generally, it's a lot more lighthearted, but it's actually still manages to get in a few horrific details about the Miami Showband Massacre that aren't in that documentary. So
again, the bleakness always creeps in.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than like it's really good, but really bleak.
It's probably the best praise most Irish films can get.
Yes. So yeah, do we have anything else?
Yes, I saw
about?
The Hole in the Ground, which is a bit less bleak, maybe.
All right.
Which is Lee Cronin's horror film, starring the ever excellent Shauna Kerslake. I do feel like maybe Irish horror films, even though I think all the ones in this particular subgenre have been quite good the last few years, maybe we need another subgenre because it's always just Irish parent versus the environment.
Yeah.
Like also when we saw The Hollow, that was called.
The Hollow,
there's The Hollow. There was Without Name, and there was the bog vampire one from The Dark, I think that was called. And now this, and they're all sort of the same thing thematically of just it's usually a single parent or a lone woman or man just against nature in some way, and there's implications of industrialism. The Hole in the Ground kind of lacking that extra bit, I think. It's sort of just, there is just a massive hole in the ground and it's not really explained. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it does anything super special, but then again, I think good horror doesn't necessarily need to. Shauna Kerslake is still as ever excellent. I don't think she can do a bad performance. I will say, having gone from Date for Mad Mary to this in like whatever a 2-year span, I sort of thought of her as younger than she maybe is. And like she's playing a single mother in this. I was like, but like she's 18, right? Like, oh, she's like 35.
Okay.
Huh. So that kind of took some mental adjusting. The kid, James Quinn Markey, playing her son, is also great. And I think one thing I respect about the film is that it does a lot of stuff that I think any kid-based horror film tends to avoid. And by that I mean sort of like violence towards the child. Like once you know it's a demon, I think it's fair game. I think a lot of films shy away from being too explicit with the child violence, which is fair. Like you don't want to kill a dog, you don't want to like kick a child to death on screen. But there's a point near the end of this where she like drugs it, and again, spoilers for everything we're talking about.
I love that you say drugs it.
Drugs it. Well, because it's
okay.
It's some kind of
it's now a
changeling
demon.
thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know
Fair,
what it is.
fair.
It's a tree folk. I don't know. They don't really explain what they are. They're underground, sort of faceless, formless things that once they're actually kind of like skrulls. Once they get you, they can turn into you. So it's sort of like a changeling, I suppose. But yeah, so she just like locks it in the basement, and she's just like throwing it around the room. Well, it's fighting back, and it's like throwing it around the room, and it has this really unearthly scream, which is very unsettling, and like you see it in mirrors. It's just once all that stuff gets going, it's quite good. I don't really have a ton to say about it. It's like, it's pretty decent. I think, okay, so of those, let's say for what we call Irish environmental horror films, it's probably the strongest one. I think Without Name is good, but it's much lower budget. This one has like a solid production style to it, and there's some really nice. There's actually a lot of shining illusions in this, like her wallpapers, the shining carpet pattern, and obviously the storyline isn't that different either, where it's struggling parent and child who seems to be abused by parent, but maybe one's a demon. Yeah, it's good.
Cool.
Actually, is it bleak? How does it rank on the Irish Bleakometre? It has a happier ending than most of these films get.
Okay.
Except in the last shot, you kind of go, oh.
All right.
She's kind of ruined forever mentally now, isn't she? All right. Well, that's bleak enough, I suppose. It doesn't end to her like accidentally killing her real child or anything, so it's not that bleak. But there's a sort of looking over your shoulder, it follows-esque kind of end to it. Like, yeah, all right, no, that's fine. That's sort of acceptably bleak, not too bleak, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose from one type of bleakness to a slightly other type of bleakness. I don't know. So I suppose for our third in our Irish corner is Shooting the Mafia, which so it has an Irish producer, Niamh Fagan. It's directed by Kim Longinotto, and it's looking at essentially this photojournalist Letizia Battaglia, who spent her career taking photos rather than literally shooting the Sicilian mafia. It's playing with terms. That's the point.
Yep.
It's kind of like, I call it a documentary because I guess it is, but it sort of seems to be trying to also do other stuff as well. Like, I'm not really sure what the focus of the movie is. It looks a lot at her photography, but it also looks at how her photography influenced Sicily and the history of Sicily, and then also her own personal life. So there's like so much going on that it kind of seems to be trying to say too much. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I didn't really know what to come away from it with, in a certain sense. And I suppose one way of like demonstrating that is that I found out afterwards that she took over something like 600,000 photos of like people who had been of like murder scenes and mafia encounters, and in the 90s when they were finally actually prosecuting mob bosses and stuff, her photos from 13 I think years earlier were like the only physical evidence that's
crazy,
that one of the ex-Italian prime ministers had been working with the mafia. So
how was that even admissible? It was like some random persons. I guess it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sort of like that. I don't know if there was just so much going on that they didn't know what to like, or not
focus
that they didn't.
on.
Almost,
yeah.
But this is like that wasn't mentioned in a movie about.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that wasn't mentioned at all.
Oh, right. So it's just
that
kind of
like a fairly big thing.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, I mean, it's really fascinating what you do learn, but it's sort of like, what am I not learning here? I guess. So it's like it's very, very interesting. It's a subject that I want to learn more about. So glad that it's like a jumping off point. I very much recommend it, but I'd also say like. It's kind of hard to know what to make of it.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's about what I have to say about Shooting the Mafia.
Well, from one documentary to another, I saw it did win the Oscar, didn't it? Free Solo.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it won Best Documentary.
The Oscars were so long ago.
I know, it was at least a calendar month. Who can expect to remember these things? It was very good. It was utterly horrifying. Mainly in, actually talking about that Brexit thing, kind of not irrelevant, where I think at least it tries to champion this man and his lifestyle, even though I just came away with like abject horror.
Okay. And
I think I wouldn't have felt as horrified if he hadn't got like a loving girlfriend who just seemed real sad that he could die at any second.
Okay.
Yeah, you seem like a sociopath, dude. I'm not going to lie. Like, you don't come across great in this film. So I suppose to give some sense of context what I'm talking about, free soloing refers to the act of rock climbing, like sheer rock face cliffs and stuff with no equipment. Part one was like little bags of chalk that you just rub your hands on for.
Oh wow.
What's the word I'm looking for? Friction,
Grip.
I suppose. Yes.
Yeah.
Grip. Grip also works. Hands do. Yes, grip's probably the word I need. Thank you. So it's focused on this main guy whose name I've utterly forgotten. But yeah, so it's him and this one particular mountain that it's like one of the most famous ones in the world that no one's ever attempted to free solo, or if maybe someone has and died, or has and like gave up halfway up it. Alex Honnold? Honnold, doesn't sound right.
Where's he from?
I think he's American.
Okay.
El Capitan is the name of the mountain. And you see it at the start, and it's just this like sheer, nearly vertical, several 100-meter tall thing. Like, it's basically a small mountain. And throughout the film, you see him doing various like roped climbs of it, and he falls a few times, like breaks his foot, and he's doing other free climb in different countries. And it's the bit that I think was the most interesting is when it cuts to his girlfriend and him, and he's telling her he's going to do the free climb of this mountain, which of course you watch the film know he has to at some point, even though she's like, do you really have to? Like, you really could, probably will die. He's like, yeah, but if I don't do it, am I really living? That kind of art. Ugh. Men, am I right? and then he tries it, and he almost immediately quits. And I think he just knew it was a bad vibe. You don't want to do it. And then there's a 10-20 minute chunk of them, like 6 months later, just living together and like going fridge shopping. And it's so domestic and normal. And you're kind of like, can this just stay as the thing? Because I know this film has to now like go back to Act 3 at some point where he does the climb. And I hadn't read about it before. I didn't know if he lived or not. So I'm going to spoilers again. He did do it and he survived. And I kind of figured when you get to like the 80-minute mark of a 90-minute film, however long this is, and you're seeing a man climbing a mountain, he's nearly at the top, and the music is swelling. Like he can't really just fall and die now, can he? That would seem like a massive rug pull. But the tension is palpable.
Okay, I feel like that would probably also like probably couldn't film that, right?
I assume he has to sign some kind of release that says,
guess,
if you're going to like have 5 drones around me at all times doing this, if I die, make sure you get a good angle of it. Yeah. Unless his girlfriend has final say, I don't know, like next of kin. Yeah, no, it's definitely worth a watch, and probably ideally on a big screen to like experience the full terror of it. But there's just little bits like you see him training, and he's basically doing full body pull-ups with just the tips of his fingers. And I was like, that must be so painful. And also, I just can't imagine having that kind of body strength so specific to one small part of your body. And like it shows like zoom ins on, because the way you have to do free soloing is you basically have to learn the whole route. And he has like a full notebook full of exact strokes. Yeah, because like you can't, there's no real like handhold. So you're basically learning where there's like these tiny little smooth bits or these tiny little crevices, or you're stuffing like inches of your finger at a time into it. And there's like zoom ins, and it's only then you realize the sheer size of what he's working with, how minuscule and how much room for error there is. And it's just like who needs to do this? Why don't you just go home? Buy a nice fridge, live with your girlfriend. Because I just felt so bad for her, because when he finally does go off and she's just sitting there crying, goes, well, it's what he wanted. Like, Jesus.
Wow.
But no, it's pretty good. I do often just question these things about these kind of lunatic egotists that doesn't need to do stupid shit for, I don't know, self-validation. Like, who am I to judge? But also, what the fuck? Yeah. Because at the end of it, I read about it afterwards, and I think the end of the movie kind of ends with him kind of going, well, like, I've done the big thing I wanted to do. I guess I'll not do that again. And then right after, he's like, well, he now wants to try and do it the fastest possible. Not like this, the free, like with a rope still, but that's still very dangerous. Like, climb it in less than 2 hours or something like that. And I was like, oh, God. Let's go home. Yeah. But, yeah. Because one of his friends, like, does die during the film. He's going to get the call again. Oh, I remember your mate that does the freestyle. Oh, he's dead. Fell off the mountain. Dead. Wow. Splat. Like, all right. That's sobering. You going to quit now, guy? No? Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty good. It's deeply distressing though. If you're any way a thing about heights, do not even try to watch this. I didn't think I did, but I may have developed a small one after watching it. But pretty good. It got an Oscar for, I don't know, suicidal tendencies. Good job there. Sarah, you saw what I'm assuming you will have hated, a allegedly very bad film from a filmmaker everyone thought would be the next something or other. Yeah. The next Carpenter, maybe. I'm dying to hear what you have to say about this, because I've heard nothing but dreadful things, and I really annoyed I missed it, because it's apparently 2.5 hours long. It's a long movie, yeah. So it's this month's Drag Cross Concrete then, essentially? Yeah. In a different way. I think, that got good reviews. Yeah.
I'm like deeply sad about that. I have to say.
I kind of almost want to watch it now, but I probably won't.
Well, I don't know. I think that they shaved something like 8 minutes off the runtime that I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like, I don't know. It's so long. It's and this isn't. Yeah, and I'm still
Anyway, sorry, let's go.
complaining about dragged across concrete. So anyway, yes, Under the Silver Lake, I presume is what you were
Yes,
referring
yes, I
to,
was.
unless it wasn't, in which case, all good. Yeah. So well, actually, this isn't as long as Dragged Across Concrete, which is
Really?
I suppose merciful. I think it's under 2.5 hours, just about.
Huh.
So still too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess slightly shorter, so small mercies maybe. Also, I'm kind of surprised that this film seemed to get basically no, or its release was so short. I feel like
it was bad because I've seen a few people in America giving out the fact that it's gone straight to VOD. I assumed it came out there first, but I think we got it first.
Yeah.
And then, but even we didn't really get it because we got it. I think the Lighthouse had it exclusively. Lighthouse and
Oh, okay,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
whatever that cinema chain has had it. Like nowhere else had it.
Yeah.
And even then, it was on for like a week, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like I was, because I saw the preview, so I was actually like, did it actually get released? Because I heard far more about this before it was released than afterwards.
Well, I heard about it a lot when it first was sort of not announced, like when it was first like what festival did it play at initially? Whatever that was, like the lead up to that got a lot of press, and then suddenly it came out like oof,
yeah,
and then no one talked about it, and then I guess they just didn't bother distributing it because they realized it would bomb horribly.
Yeah,
because I guess they were expecting another It Follows, but then it's not the same genre really at all. From what I've understood about it, and I guess they figured they would not make their money back on this one, so don't in VOD.
Yeah. I don't know, I don't know. I was disappointed it didn't get more of a release because I would be interested to see what people thought. And like, as much as I didn't think it was great, I doubt it's going to be like my worst film of the year by any stretch. Like it's grand. It's not very good.
Yeah.
And it's got deeply kind of troubling politics. I
have heard these things, and that's why I'm wondering what you thought about it, because I bet they're very much not to your taste in terms of good things.
Yeah. So I was supposed to give some context. So it's Andrew Garfield is like a just kind of waster who, and okay, so this is where the film kind of, this is like one of the places where the film falls down.
One sentence in,
yes,
caveats,
I know.
asterisks.
But we learn kind of a little bit in that he believes that the popular media has secret messages for rich people in it. And it's sort of like that's kind of a starting point for like a screenplay. That's not the end point of a screenplay.
So it is here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
it's pretty much
that.
like his conspiracy theory is rich people do things that poor people don't know about, which is just sort of like every conspiracy theory ultimately. So, it's sort of weirdly unspecific in a film that has 2.5 hours to explore this unspecificity. So, yeah, as I said, he's a waster. He lives in LA and he kind of like falls in love or just is deeply attracted to his new neighbor, who then disappears mysteriously in the night, and the whole movie pretty much becomes about him trying to decipher all these clues, find out where she's gone and what's happened. And it's actually, I found the first half quite fun. It's not really, like, I didn't think it was particularly doing anything that maybe amazing, but it was enjoyable. It's got a good film noir thing going on. The music, Disaster Piece was the group. Like, they do a really good job of just making it feel very like there's a lot of fog. There's a lot of like kind of spooky, detective stuff going on. I find that quite fun, and I think if the movie had been an hour shorter, and if the ending had been
a whole hour to cut out of it.
Okay, let's say half an hour. If the movie hadn't been like as long as it was, if the ending had been less problematic, which I guess is kind of a big ask, but like essentially, I thought it was not great, but I kind of been amused at how that it just didn't manifest in the end. Like there's so many other films that just I prefer not to have scene. Do you know?
I guess I have one question. Is
Yes.
it's does it have any kind of continuity that it follows in terms of like
I don't think so.
style or substance or anything?
Yeah, like
Because it follows in hindsight. I quite like that film an awful lot,
Yeah.
but it is sort of vague in what it's actually about. Like it's sort of kind of like us. Actually, get to it in a little bit. It's sort of intentionally ambiguous towards exactly what the metaphor is alluding to.
Yeah.
It sort of works 3 or 4 different ways, which is fine. But
mm-hmm.
I assume that was a choice what it follows. But now maybe it's just that's how he writes, and he can't
Yeah,
really
maybe.
write very well.
I mean, well, actually, I suppose I don't know if it's that related, but what was pretty good was this horror character that does turn up and is
Okay.
not really explained, and I did find genuinely quite terrifying.
Cool. All right.
Like I think, yeah, that was one thing that I actually would like to have people to have seen. Essentially, it's not a huge part of the movie, but it's really good when it happens.
I'm intrigued.
So yeah, actually, I suppose there is a bit of like, there's definitely stuff about people being followed. I guess not
right,
that
very good.
unusual in a detective
Not
drama.
so much, I suppose. No.
But yeah, like I mean, there's some things going on. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the
That'd
kind
be a
of
great poster quote. Just there are some things going on.
yeah. I suppose I was saying as well that do you mind if I like sort of spoil the end? Or would you
Not
prefer-
really.
Okay,
I will
well-
see it, but also.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that kind of annoys me about the discovery is I guess, yeah, once, or I suppose in a certain sense you can read it certain ways, but I think one of the key readings would be that it's looking at like Weinstein's Hollywood and how basically these rich men have had so much power over, especially over like young women. But you can only sort of, that reading only makes sense if David Robert Mitchell doesn't think that women have that much autonomy.
Ew, okay.
Which is just like pretty disappointing. Like that was, yeah, I mean, that was kind of one of the main reasons why I just kind of went, that's not, it kind of took away from the enjoyment
Yeah.
that I did have in the first half of the movie. So yeah, I mean, it's not the worst movie, but it's like, I guess after it follows, it's, yes, very disappointing, certainly.
Do you think having that kind of reading to it takes away from it follows in hindsight?
That's a good question. I mean, quite possibly.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. What was I? Yeah, there's actually. Sorry, this is very digressive, but maybe you can say it for a second.
We have plenty of time.
But yeah, well, I was listening to. Do you listen to the Bechdel cast at all?
No, I do not.
It's really cool. It's another podcast, so go listen to another podcast, everyone.
Just one of them. No, only this one. Nothing else.
But yeah, like they basically look at the representation of women in a different podcast, in a different movie each week or each podcast, and they were looking at Rosemary's Baby, and I mean, they were just kind of obviously pointing out like Polanski's politics and Ira Levin, who wrote the original novel. And apparently, like, Levin was pretty much like, nope, this isn't about feminism, or this isn't, like, this is about church control and the problems behind it. And, I guess, like, it texts, obviously, maybe this is a bit far removed, but just, like, that, I think if you know the people behind Rosemary's Baby, you can be like, oh, so they just wanted to, like, have a powerless woman. Like, that's just what they wanted. They just wanted to have things happen to her. Rather than wanted to explore what it's like to be a powerless woman in a patriarchal society. So, I mean, I guess, I'm just wondering, maybe, I don't know if it's a similar thing with It Follows in some way. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah. It's a good question, though.
Disappointing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Disappointing. Yeah, because all I know about the film, I didn't watch the trailer for it because I wanted to go in blank and then I just missed it, so whatever.
Okay.
So I was seeing that one gif of Andrew Garfield like really sleazily running between two trees, and everyone was saying his character is a total asshole and is the worst kind of white man protagonist. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like Rear Window, but worse somehow.
Yeah, no, actually, that was one thing, like, that there is, it's kind of like they do invoke Rear Window, but it sort of seems more like they're just like, how do we get Peeping Tom character in there?
Yeah, like an excuse supposed to like.
Yeah, that's it. And actually, I really liked Andrew Garfield in it. Like, I think he's a lot nicer than his character should be, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
He was actually one of the reasons I kind of enjoyed what I did. Which is, I guess it's a shame that there are like good performances and stuff that probably much better performances than the movie they were in. So, or terrible because his character should be dislikable. I don't know. I don't know.
That's the thing. He's kind of recently, like with the Joker trailer, for example, like this idea of can you in this day and age really do a film where the protagonist is a terrible person who shouldn't be valorized and yet inevitably will be by the wrong audience? Like it's the Fight Club thing.
Phantom Thread. Hello.
Everyone else loves that film, Sarah.
Now.
Phantom Thread's good. Yeah, but I think Fight Club's always like the example of these things.
Absolutely.
Joker will be another one of those. Of look, another like white man that was sort of downtrodden by the world, and now he's murdering people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yep.
That's a good question.
From one tortured white man, another tortured white man.
Yes.
I saw the new Van Gogh, and yes, I refuse to say his real pronunciation, which is like Van Gogh, I think is the correct pronunciation. Yeah. But I'm not going to say Paris instead of Paris, so I'm saying Van Gogh. At Eternity's Gate, starring Willem Dafoe, which he was Oscar nominated for. He did not win, I don't believe. Now, a bit of a rant about this one, because it's a film I very much respect what they were going for. I fully get what they were trying to do. I just utterly hated it. I saw it actually with a former host of these lands, Jonathan, and he knows his Van Gogh history a lot more, and he really enjoyed it. And it was interesting talking with him on the way home, because we were just both at opposite ends about it. And because the film, it's kind of so it's like the Civil War of painting movies, in that there's also music coming in really loudly in this building.
It's strange.
If you can hear that, podcast people, we apologise. It's not us.
Or it's a bonus, thing. You're welcome.
It's going to make that joke from The Simpsons. I found the line now. The one, remember the fart noises Mr. Burns on the radio? What's that? Most of the noises you hear are not coming from me. Yes. Anyway, sorry. Van Gogh. So yeah, to back my Civil War comparison, I feel like if you watch Civil War, having not watched previous Marvel movies, you'd be a bit lost. Okay. This is that, but for like real life painter biographies. If you don't know Van Gogh's life really well, it's a very confusing film. Okay. Because it does a lot of things which I just, being used to these kind of films, kind of guessed what was happening, but wasn't really clear on. So one thing is that I know Van Gogh had some kind of eye problem in real life, and he had something to do with the colour yellow where he saw it too intensely. So yellows are very harshly in the colour grade. And also a lot of shots in the first person, the bottom half of the frame is blurred, like a cataract or something. I was like, yeah, okay, if you know that going in, cool, I suppose it's an interesting way of doing it, but it just sort of seems like obnoxious most of the time. And then there's the actual life events that are meant to be like very formative for him, and there's one that I couldn't stop laughing at, where he's just painting a field, and like a bunch of school children go by with their teacher, and they kind of go, oh look, teacher, it's a paint, let's go harass this man, basically. And all these kids are running around like asking questions, like slapping his painter and stuff, and then he like correctly kind of loses it and like shouts at the child, and then the teacher's like, I forget what she says, but she's just like admonishing him for no obvious reasons, calling him like a bum and a waste of space. It's really funny. It's Willem Dafoe. I just found Willem Dafoe delightful. But it just comes out of nowhere, and it feels like such like a subjective view of someone's life, devoid of context. And then everybody's walking home drunk, and there's just kids throwing stones at him for no reason. Wow. And then he's chasing down the road, and then some man like grabs him and stops him hassling those kids again. It's like, what happened? Like, you never see the setup for these situations. You just get the payoff of him being, his life just looking like this series of highly contrived situations of him being harassed in the streets. And again, talking to John, he's like, no, these are all like recurring things in his life, and he was like hated around the town and stuff, but there's context the film doesn't give you. Okay. So if you knew it, obviously it's fine, but the film does not hold your hand. And the director even, I think, again, I was told this by Jonathan, cinematographer too, they were trying to distance themselves from that Loving Vincent film a couple of years ago. Remember the animated one? And they were going for something much more gritty, I suppose you'd say. And there's a bit on the start where I was like, I'm almost debating walking out right now, where he gets like a little shack and he puts his shoes on the ground and starts painting his shoes. Grand, that's a fine setup for a scene. It's about 10 minutes long. Whoa. And it has the most amount of camera movement I've ever seen in my life for a shot of shoes. it goes down to the ground. The camera's like a Dutch angle. It's all handheld, single shot, and the camera's like moving, like going upside down, like going in and out of the shoes. It's like, what? Please hold the camera still, or I have to leave. This is just nonsense. I'm not sure what I was trying to symbolize. How intense he viewed shoes before painting them. I don't know.
That sounds kind of familiar to Brexit. Did you see? Sorry, I'm just like, you know, reminding people when I'm bringing in our current theme. But did you see that interview with Theresa May where the camera just keeps moving?
No.
There's some like recent thing, and I think they were saying people are thinking that like she wants to seem more relatable, so it's like the camera's like kind of not steady. Yeah, I don't know much more.
Is
than
she
that.
moving or is like sitting down?
She's sitting down, but the camera is just kind of like wobbling a little bit, and like it's strange.
That's bizarre. I did not see that. No.
But anyway, I totally interrupted your.
Yeah, like to the point that it does become quite funny. Like, I found it quite funny, even though it's meant to be this very depressing thing. And there are quite affecting moments, and like Dafoe is obviously a phenomenal good actor, so he does like the tortured artist thing very well. And but then you get to the bit where Mads Mikkelsen shows up and he's just playing Hannibal again. You're like, oh god damn it.
Is he Gauguin or
no? He's a random priest.
Okay.
He's actually basically Hannibal because he's a priest in the mental asylum that Van Gogh is in.
Okay.
And he has to decide if Van Gogh is like psychologically sound enough to leave or not. But he kind of plays it just like Hannibal. He's just seemingly torturing him. Well, not even so much that, but just. Do you watch Hannibal at all?
No, sorry. I've always been scared away.
It's not scary. It's just weird. But like the way Hannibal tortures Will in that show, where he's seeming like a friendly face to talk to, but he's actually just like psychologically manipulating him, like fucking with him. He just does that to Van Gogh for no obvious reason. He's like, look at this painting. Is this a painting of a man or like a serial killer? And Van Gogh's like, it's just some birds.
Whoa.
It's such a weird scene. And
that's
then,
amazing.
And that's like the only scene he's in. And then also Matthew Mallock shows up for a bit. So it's almost all the Craig Bond villains in one movie. It's bizarre. And then at the end, his death is so unceremonious. And I always thought Van Gogh killed himself. I'd always heard he killed himself. This film goes with what I'm told was a controversial theory that he was randomly murdered by some local lads who then like hid the gun and all this stuff. And no one really knows for sure if Van Gogh did kill himself. There's no real evidence either way. It's a big vague thing. But again, you're watching the film, he's just painting in a field, and then suddenly two lads run in, pass him, and then shoot him. And who are the what? It's just,
oh my god.
It's like you're watching the sequel to a film that already exists, where the first film, this was like a minor character, and now you're seeing his version of events. And oh, of course, that's why this happened. But you're missing the first film.
Wow.
So I hope I don't come across like a Philistine, someone who actually knows Van Gogh and watched the film and loved it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad film. I just think everything it was doing was so against my sensibilities, and I couldn't enjoy it because I didn't understand what was happening.
Okay.
There's also just the last thing I'll say. There's these bits where it's him in a field and the music's swelling and then like him getting inspiration, but it's just these handheld shots, which just Jonathan's line. I'm sorry, I'm associating with this. If you're listening, Jonathan, he said it was like someone attached the camera to his like swinging dick, and that's the angle you get, where it's just like a shot of his legs and it's like swinging as he runs, and it's a bizarre angle to go with.
That's
I don't
amazing.
know, like, is it implying he just ran into a field looking straight down the whole time? Why didn't he trip? That seems very scary. Yeah, so At Eternity's Gate is an interesting film, which I wouldn't recommend to most people, but it's something.
That kind of reminds me, actually, I saw that movie, The Man Who Invented Christmas, the Charles Dickens movie.
Yeah.
And that, like
Dan Stevens, I like him.
Yeah. It's slightly, like, it's not exact, it doesn't sound entirely like you're
as what French you were as this one. I think this is
no, exactly. But no, the odd thing is that movie, it's sort of
really.
a lot of it is vignettes of like how Dickens got his inspiration for stuff. So there's just like scenes where like he's walking down the like streets, at Christmas time, and like there's a woman being like beaten by her husband, or like an orphan, being kicked out of a house or something, and he's like, yes, of course. And it's like, are you going to go and help them? No, you're going to go and write something. Okay, you're going to go and profit on their lives. Cool. So
the tortured male artist there. We must always, yes.
Yeah. So not to say that it sounds like Van Gogh was benefiting off other people's lives, but just that thing of like, yes, we're going to do that thing that reminds us of that thing that he did.
Yeah,
but in a better
doesn't
way.
Do that. It is just a much bleaker. Like, because Oscar Isaac's in it too, as he's who did you ask who it was a minute ago?
Oh, Gauguin?
Yeah, I think he's Gauguin.
Okay.
I think he's one of his painterly friends. And his stuff's quite good, but then it's also, I don't know, Van Gogh just comes out like a really weird guy. He just seemed like someone that was deeply socially awkward, which is fine. But just the way, I think it's probably Willem Dafoe's fault, because I found Willem Dafoe innately hilarious.
Okay.
As a presence in any film, he
fair.
makes me smile. Because he has such a big, weird demon face that he just has to like try and act naturally with.
Yeah.
How does he do it? Look at that face. So just seeing him like screaming upset that his friend is going home, like, oh no, poor demon Willem lost his friend. I'm sorry, I'm a bad person. I can't help it. Yeah, so that's that film. He should have got the Oscar, probably. Whatever.
Yeah.
The Oscar Isaac? No, the Oscar. So I think, unless you want to have anything else to talk about, we can go to the final topic for the evening.
I think we should, because
We're at, like, the hour
I'm very
mark.
excited about this. Hey, that's good.
Yeah, so last but not least, Us, which I actually had meant to see twice before doing this, but I saw it once.
Okay.
I suppose to give the most cursory, well, we're going to spoil it anyway, I suppose, but the setup at least is just that Lupita Nyong'o is Adelaide,
Yes. Adelaide Wilson.
I was like, is it Madelaide? No, Adelaide, right. Who had a traumatic event as a child in a house of mirrors. As an adult, goes back to the same place with her family. Suddenly a second family of doppelgangers shows up. A home invasion film starts. It's 50 resolves itself, and then a much weirder film starts. And we'll get into that. Yeah, I loved it. I think I prefer it to Get Out.
Ooh, interesting.
Just because I really like Get Out. I think Get Out has a nice, solid thing it's going for. It has like one clear meaning and theme, and it does that. It does it very well, and it's a fun film. It's kind of funny. I thought this was much funnier. I thought the concepts were much weirder, and what horror bits were horror-esque, I thought were more horrifying. I also think Get Out hasn't got as much like rewatch value for me, because it's like I know what's happening. I know everything kind of happens on the first viewing. And still, I've watched it like since. It's still good. This one I feel like I could watch a few times and still not really be sure what exactly it's about, which I like. I prefer that.
Yeah.
I do agree with anyone that kind of says they were annoyed that there's no clear reading of this one, and that. And this, now, I think this is by design. I think he's said as much.
Yeah.
But it's by design that there's no one clear symbolism or metaphor. Like, it's sort of a few different things that can be intentionally read like 3 or 4 different ways. I like that quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I can understand the frustration. I know upon a first viewing, I came out kind of going, I think I like that, but also, what did any of that mean?
Yeah.
Read some stuff. Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, I loved it. Really loved it.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I have seen it twice.
Good.
So, the first time I saw it, I really liked it, and I went, I think Get Out might be still a cleverer film.
Probably.
But no, I then watched it again and went, no, I think it's better. Like, I think it is. I don't even know if it's fair to say it's a cleverer film, but I think it has.
They're both still great.
Like,
no
they're
one's
both,
saying they aren't still great.
no, they're both like super amazing. But no, I think you're right. Like, there's so much rewatch value. Like, I mean, in particular, watching Us the second time. Like, the first time, it was a horror, but the second time it was a tragedy.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, I don't know what it would be on a third time. I hope maybe it'll be the same, but I do have a feeling it will change as I understand it more. I'm
assuming on the second watch, that last minute twist seems a lot more sensible.
Yeah.
That threw me at first, like, huh?
Yeah.
That seems a bit cheap. But then I was reading things like, oh yeah, there actually is a lot of setup for that, I suppose. So do you think that, I suppose, to spoiler for those who haven't seen it, at the end it turns out that Adelaide she's the original. No, she's not the original, sorry. She's the tethered, which is the doppelganger people that live below our sewers or whatever the fuck that was about. And she has been the whole time, and then it's sort of unclear if she repressed it intentionally and like she knew the whole time and was faking it, not faking it, but like pretending, or she just triggered the memories at the end and just got it all. I thought the second one was what happened.
Okay.
It seemed like killing Red triggered it, and that's why she suddenly had the flashback in the car or the ambulance at the end. That's what I thought was happening, but I've heard people say no, like the reason she's anxious to go back in the first place because she knows that's where she's from and she doesn't want to go back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think I mean, I think this film is like rife to be read both ways. No, I think that's a really interesting point because I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, no, there's it was really interesting. What I found the second time round was when the doppelganger daughter dies, and she does die in kind of a comical scene.
How does she die again?
She jumps up on their car and then is like flown through the forest. Yeah. But actually watching that the second time, I was actually crying because I was like, holy shit, this is actually her daughter dying.
What is it though? Because
I kind of read it as, at least if it's not her daughter, she recognizes that it would be her daughter if not for what she did. Do you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the second time around, the tie to the sort of doppelganger children became a lot clearer to me. And that to me made it so much more effective. I mean, like, obviously, that's another thing that can be read two ways. Like, should that doppelganger daughter be hers, or would it never be born? Or, I don't know.
But I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, it's very confusing, and I think it's better for it.
It's challenging.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I'm still not sure I fully understand the Hands Across America thing. Like, the best reasoning I've heard of it is that was the last thing she saw before she went down there, and she would have assumed, I guess, that it worked in the real world and, like, solved homelessness, whereas obviously it didn't. It was a horrible failure in the real world, and that she would have known that, so that's why she did it. Which is fine, but it seems like too big of a set piece to hang that one little small thing on. And then obviously the sort of film studies essay writing part of my brain's like, well, it's a giant red line across America. Something about conservative division of the country. I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah. I'm not really sure either. Yeah, it's because I mean what I was trying to figure out was, like, there's a lot of things about, like, spiders and stuff going on. So I don't know if it was like, I guess it's not even a spider. It's loads of people together, loads of limbs. I don't know. It is. It's kind of, that is definitely still a thinker. But it's actually what I really like about both movies, and which I don't think I liked at first, was that kind of, like, ineffable, like, there is some sort of higher higher being or some sort of knowledge that we don't have, and that the film kind of hinges on.
Oh, yeah, the kind of like sci-fi elements. They're sort of above our possible technology. Yeah,
that's it. And, like, possibly a god in us, or at least, like... Well, I mean, as in Red does talk about there being a god, so I don't know whether she meant that metaphorically or literally.
Christian god, or the detethered version of the Christian god?
Yeah, like, I don't know. But it is one of the things she talks about in her story. And obviously there is some sort of, higher technology magic that we don't currently understand.
If there's one thing I didn't like, it is the explanation, purely because I understand why he felt the need to explain it as much as he did, even though he said in interviews, like, he has a whole mechanism worked out, like a much more detailed version explanation that he won't ever say out loud.
Okay.
For his own sake. I could have done with less, personally. I think once I started explaining it, I was like, all right, I get the gist of this, but I understand, like, for a general audience, you need a bit more than that. Then once I started showing, like, the actual... You remember they re-show the Fun Fair opening from the downstairs perspective? It looks really silly and just ridiculously contrived. I didn't need to see, like, the one-to-one recreation, because, like, I got the idea of what you're talking about. That just felt like too, like, either you need to explain it really well or not at all, and they kind of went to the middle ground. I was like, now I just have more questions and answers sort of about it, but it didn't, like, detract overall. But it was like a niggling irritant.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because like, I was, like, as I said, like, originally I was like, I don't really like that there's this thing that is just like, oh, we can't know it. But I think that's the best part of the movies. I think it's just that, I guess, Lovecraftian thing, because I guess he does find Lovecraft interesting. But just, and I think, I mean, not to sort of go to academic essay-ish, but I think that, like, that thing might just be like racism to a certain, as in, I think it might just be the fact that, like, we as white audiences can't understand what what a black experience is like. And I think that generally white mainstream movies don't understand what racism is, and I think
Tried to cross concrete, yes.
yeah. So I think maybe that might be at least some way of exploring the thing that is missing from mainstream film. So I don't know. Yeah.
Did you watch that documentary Horror Noir?
No.
The one that Jordan Peele's he's interviewed at one point, and he's talking about the what's it called in Get Out, the
sunken place.
Sunken place, that's it. Yes, that the way that's shot, where it's sort of like it's POV of him going backwards, and like you kind of see like the frame of the image where she's on the other side of it. That was meant to look like, he said, at least partially, like a black person's view of a cinema screen. So it's like all you see on screen is a white person. Like you never see yourself represented. Like that's kind of cool. So I think you could be on something like that level of kind of esoteric knowledge isn't outside his wheelhouse. So I think that's very possible. But as a good documentary, everyone should watch that.
Cool, yeah, that sounds really good. I actually hadn't heard about it, so I will watch it now. What do you find actually? I sort of stayed away from Jordan Peele's interpretation. Like not like I just kind of feel like. Not that I don't want to know it, but I just kind of...
So is it because that's kind of the default one then? You have to work it out.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I
think he's been pretty vague about it, though.
Okay, well that's like... And I should also say, like, I don't in any way think that he shouldn't have his opinions, and he shouldn't... Like, obviously he should share them. But I think maybe it's like... Maybe that I want to explore other things before I find out what his one is.
Yeah, what the quote-unquote real answer
is. Yeah.
I think the only thing I definitely saw him say, I think he said that it is meant to be Adelaide having entirely repressed who she was until the last second when she kills Red, she kind of does that laugh and the animalistic scream. Okay. And that was her memory kind of triggering. Okay. That's the only thing I can remember hearing him say for sure. Okay. But even then, like, you can still read it whatever way. What were you asking?
Was I asking something? I can't remember now.
Sure.
I think I was maybe asking, did you look into his theories or not?
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't. Or did I? I don't think I did. I think I saw that one first. I saw that one for sure. I do quite like people's guess as to the costumes and the reason for them.
Oh, yeah.
You heard this one? That, like, because the last thing she wore was the Thriller t-shirt. And so the red jumpsuits are through, and the one glove even is Michael Jackson. Like, that's kind of silly, but I really like it.
Okay. That is interesting. Yeah.
And of course, everyone's like, what are the scissors for? Well, they're called a tether, so they're cutting themselves, obviously. Jeez, that's a very simple one.
That's a good point. Yeah, I kind of read them myself. Well, I mean, I guess there's obviously, I presume that people have said other stuff like that. It might be from a like mental institution or even just like Republican Red, as you said. But I think it's interesting as well that Adelaide is wearing white throughout it, and then it gets more bloody. So there's...
that's cool. Yeah.
Becoming the same.
Deep.
Yeah. And actually, one thing that I didn't really catch the first time that I loved on my second time around. So I don't know if you noticed like how much movement is like integral to sort of the movie, I guess. I mean, like stuff like obviously like how Red moves is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that weird kind of like her back stays straight, but her legs just move real fast, and like
but I mean, like, and there's so much. Obviously, there are so much like incredible movement going on. But even like, because I know one thing I have heard. I think again, actually, did I hear it or did I assume I heard it? Jordan Peele talking about how sort of looking at the difference between wealthy black experience and the poor black experience in America, and how you have so much opportunity and I guess opportunity to move, and like throughout the film, Adelaide's kids are like always running around, and they're just like never doing what she tells them to do.
Yes,
there's just the sense of like everyone is always moving, and then compare that to the
Red's kids who are really obedient. Yeah.
So there's just like, it was something that didn't strike me at all the first time, and the second time I was like, holy shit, like the choreography in the movie is just amazing. That's
true. Yeah, that last kind of fight scene is I mean, admittedly the score does so much in that scene for me.
Yeah,
but it was really good. I also, because I intentionally didn't watch the trailer for this before I saw it, and I'm not sure if the trailer even spoils it, but I didn't know that it would open up into like a bigger like not world, a country-ending event. I assumed it was like one contained
yeah.
thing, but then
Yeah.
suddenly like you're halfway through and they've already killed most of them, and there's like a whole second family involved. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's the entire country.
Yeah.
That was a sort of surprising escalation of scale, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
Which I'm not even sure if I fully like or don't like, because I think it maybe would have made more sense, you know, in quotation marks, if it was just confined to like one state or one city. Like, the fact that it is a countrywide thing, like, oh Jesus, what?
I guess
The logistics of this are mind-boggling.
Yeah, does is it something on the news? Do they say it's countrywide?
I think you just assume it because there's that opening text at the start saying there's tunnels everywhere,
Yeah.
and then also the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
shot
yeah.
is
No, that
showing like
makes
a
sense.
pretty long.
It is
distance
very
red
long.
line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not actually specified. Although I think the news stories, I forget what cities they say they're in, but I think they do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, really, really good.
Mm.
Do you think Lupita will get Tony Collette this year
Yeah.
for the Oscars?
Yeah. I mean, she definitely. Oh, she deserves to be recognized.
She does. For
so
one of her
much.
2 roles
Yeah,
in this,
yeah,
at least.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, which one will get the Oscar nomination? Yeah, no, it'd be good. It's not. I never know with these. Like, it's not out too early to be. Like,
I don't think
I know you
so.
can be nominated at any time, but I just wonder, like, will it be forgotten by the time, or ignored because it's.
It depends
Not
on
the
the
right
actual
genre.
like the studio. Put. I think the fact that it's Jordan Peele,
Okay.
they'll probably remember it around the Oscar time. But I know they also just hate nominating horror films, so
Yeah.
we'll see. And I think Get Out was a horror film, but also it had enough sort of just basic drama and satire elements that
Yeah.
it could be shooed away as not a horror. It was a satire. It was a comedy according to Golden Globe. Whereas this one I think is much more outright horror, and like it's
Yeah.
self-identifies more as a straight horror film. So maybe it mightn't fare as well. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. One thing I don't know if you had come across any of this at all that I do think is worth like just highlighting at least is that like some people have kind of pointed out that actually the movement of what I was praising a minute ago, some people have kind of pointed out that it's that actually the representation of the other group, the red group, that it like might be kind of slightly problematic.
Oh yes.
In that some people are saying, well, there are people who do move in unusual ways and they do have trouble speaking, or they might speak in, you know, the unusual patterns or whatever. So, just that some people are kind of pointing out that it's maybe
Othering or something.
Yeah, that it's possibly not, dealing with things like physical disability in the best way.
That's completely fair. I think horror as a genre has that problem.
Yes,
It's hard to have a human monster, even the word monster is kind of dodgy there, that shows in any way a deviation from, the quote-unquote norm, and it not be perceived as some kind of slight against like physically able people or something. Yeah, no, that's entirely fair, I think, as a thing to complain about. I'm not really sure there's an answer how to solve that problem. It's just... It's the same with every like villain in any kind of film back in the day always had like a visual deficiency, or like a limp or a scar or a missing hand or something. Like it's sort of villainizing people with abnormalities, but
I mean, I suppose hopefully as things have kind of gotten more progressive in other ways, like maybe we'll have more directors or actors in horror that perhaps have physical disabilities, or people who are more aware and are able to like deal with them in the respectful manner they should be. I mean, I think I could imagine that Jordan Peele, if he was learning about this, I can only imagine he would attempt to address it. And so I mean, I guess I hope that things can go forward. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I just kind of felt like I love this movie. I think it's going to be probably my movie of the year. But also want to
early call.
Yeah, I know it is early call. We'll see. But yeah, no, I guess I just wanted to point out that like even amazing movies can like not be entirely aimless or something. And
I think that's the problem with the online those dude bro guys again that we hate so much, that everything has to be like a binary, either it's good or bad. Whereas I think any of us galaxy brain people know that you can love something and still think it's terrible.
Exactly, yes.
And still find it highly problematic.
Yeah.
No, for sure, I agree with you.
Yeah. I guess the one other thing I was wondering about us is, is there any scope for a sequel?
Well, he has kind of said that it's possible, like he hasn't obviously decided this firmly yet, that there are more stories to tell in that universe, and that even like Get Out could be the same. It could all be the one thing.
Yeah.
Because again, like
That
you're
would be
saying, like
good.
it does have that linking sort of nebulous godlike sci-fi element in each one. So I would kind of like a little Jordan Peele-verse. That could be kind of cool.
That could be great. Yeah.
And it does feel like it ends on such a weird note that I both do want a sequel and don't. Like I'm not sure what you do with a story set post whatever you call the event, the uprising or whatever. Like, would it be as interesting as the story we got in that film? But also, do you just do that again from their point of view? Like, do you have like a different family's version of the same events? I don't know. But you couldn't really, because Red is unique in that she's not actually one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though actually that's a thing that if you do take the reading as being about racism or poverty, the fact that the uprising only happened because one of the quote-unquote
that's a good point,
that immediately was like, ooh, doesn't that kind of diminish the whole point of it being like some kind of proletariat uprising if the only reason they rose because one of the non-proletariat got trapped down there? I went, no, fuck this.
That's a good
I'm
point.
not living this way.
I suppose actually that potentially could be a good way to kind of address that in a sequel, is to have her not be the only one, or
she's dead now.
Yeah. That's
know.
that. You're right. That's not brilliant.
I still think it takes away from it because you don't have to read the film that way. Could we get something else that isn't affected by a class divide?
Yeah, I suppose it's nice to have a savior that is not white.
That's true. Again, everything's problematic on some level, so it's at least one box unticked. So.
There we go. Yeah.
I guess that'll probably do it. Anything you're looking forward to coming out next few months?
Yeah,
let's say next 2 to 3 months just to cover ourselves, because we'll be back again.
I don't know. I guess we have to watch Endgame.
Oh, we do have to Endgame. Yes. All 3 goddamn hours of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Like I will say, I'll be curious in Endgame because I fully respect them marketing it so little, not so little, but like not showing anything. Like that never happens anymore in movies.
Fair.
I'm looking forward to see what footage my eyes have not already ruined the trailers.
And is it going to be 3 hours?
Yes.
Oh god.
3 hours and 2 minutes. Okay. I'm not sure that's including credits or not though.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't. That's still like 2 hours 50. But
oh man.
Yeah.
Oh well. I'm actually kind of looking forward to John Wick 3 as well.
Oh yes.
Like I really didn't particularly enjoy two, but I feel like 3 might actually go batshit insane again. Whereas I think 2 was just like trying to bring in storyline too much. If they went back to just being like, yes, loads of murder,
simple revenge story.
Yeah. I would enjoy that. So I think it could go from the trailers. I think it could go either way. There's too much Halle Berry in there for it to not be at least somewhat narrative heavy. I think. But
I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, everyone always says the world building is the best thing in those films, and I agree-ish. I think I probably prefer 2 just because one. Even with the presence of dear Willem, one just felt a bit slower to my mind, where I kind of preferred the sort of weird aesthetics of 2, and the fact that I kept playing classical music over action scenes. Like, yeah, this feels stupid. I don't like this. But yes, 3 does look ridiculous. The horse chases, the Halle Berry dog attacks. Someone pointed out though that technically all 3 of those films have taken place over the course of like a week, and that's kind of insane to think of, because 1 is like straight after 2 is straight after 1, and 3 is seemingly straight after 2. So that's a tough 2 weeks for John.
Wow.
But yeah, hopefully they end it in a decent way and they don't make any more of them.
Yeah.
I know there's a TV show coming, but that's okay.
God, okay. Well then.
Nothing ever dies, Sarah. Nothing ever dies.
Except dogs.
Well, hopefully no more of those.
Yeah.
That's kind of all. No, there's definitely more films coming out.
There's 2 films coming out this year.
When's Dark Phoenix out, actually?
Oh yeah, I don't know. They keep
you're one of the
pushing
people
that
I know
back,
that's
don't
like super into the X-Men films, as are.
Oh yeah, I don't care anymore. I think
this will be terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
I mean, I think I'd be vaguely interested if New Mutants ever came out, but it won't.
Disney says they're still releasing it.
Okay.
I would be surprised.
To be honest, it's probably going to be shit at this point.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why weren't the X-Men films always shit though? Really?
Yeah. I mean,
I know
probably.
they weren't. Yep. I think on that note, we'll end it on this.
Right.
So for Historian in the future, we are currently at Brexit date 31st of October. That could well move next week or in 2 months. Who knows? They could be gone tomorrow. Who knows what horrible mishap will befall them next?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that it?
That's how we'll do like 3 rings in the future. Just like, where was Brexit dated at
Oh
this point
yeah,
in time?
that's
Work
yeah.
backwards
Get
from
rid
there.
of the like whatever Gregorian calendar,
Yeah.
whatever we're at now. Is that the
Just
last
different
calendar? I don't know.
Brexit
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah, for listening. I've been Richard.
I've been Sarah.
Goodbye. Thank you.